Hey guys, welcome back to VM Nation. Guys, this is going to be a great episode. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. This is going to be a great episode. We're going to be talking about some of my favorite things: veterans, mental health, and kindness. Yes, I said kindness. And we're going to be talking with my friend from the Great North, Mr. Mark. But first, I want to thank our sponsors. The first sponsor is me. My book just came out. It came out on Monday. It's called A Hero's Journey from Darkness to Light, and it's my story, but it also has chapters on what addiction really looks like. Also has chapters on what depression looks like and how to overcome depression. And so that book is out. It's on sale for $10.97, and 22% of the proceeds go to help Project Die Hard 22, which helps veterans struggling with homelessness and PTSD. And my second sponsor, which without them I wouldn't be able to put the book out, is OVF, Operation Veteran Freedom. They're a group on Facebook where if you're a veteran, sometimes we have problems getting used to getting into a regular job. So we might want to start a career. So they teach you how to literally teach you how to start your own career, especially if you're looking to get into something with digital marketing. So definitely check out OVF, Operation Veteran Freedom. So guys, thank you guys for coming on. This is going to be a great episode. Mark is an amazing gentleman. It's been all Mark for the last 3 days. I've been doing nothing but listening to his podcast, reading his book 3 times. So this is a treat for me. Mark, what's going on, brother?
Hey, man, I really appreciate you having me on. And you read it 3 times. It must not be too terrible. I appreciate that.
No, it's real. And, for me, I'm a big reader. And it was a book that was very easy to digest. And I actually found myself chuckling a few times, actually laughing out loud sometimes. So it was a really easy book to read and really enjoyable. You're a great storyteller.
Oh, thank you very much. And for anybody that's interested, the name of that book is Why Not Me? The Keys to Unlock Your Power and Release Your Potential. There's a couple of Mark Meincke's out there, actually. So whoever wrote the steam engine or steam power engine or whatever it is, that ain't me. I didn't write that. That's another guy with the same name. But Why Not Me? The Keys to Unlock Your Power and Release Your Potential. It's interesting why I wrote that. When I had like no self-esteem coming out of the Army. I didn't think I was worth a hill of beans. And I eventually fell into this job where I was doing really, really well, like rock star level well. And nobody was more surprised than I was. So I started to figure out, oh, well, why is this? Like, how am I able to perform better than I thought possible in this particular role? And then I started, there was a couple other people around me that read all the self-help books and the personal development books, and a couple of them were suggested for me. So I started reading more and more books. And there was at the time something called dailyinbox.com that would give you inspirational quotes every day. And I would collect them and print them out. And I had a binder 3 inches thick of these inspirational quotes and all these different sources. And after a couple of years of this, I came to the conclusion that, if I ever have kids, I'm going to want to write a book to capture this journey of growth that I'm on. And then I did have a kid. And then I had the most horrible feeling that, oh my gosh, what if I get hit by a bus or a meteor? I'd prefer a meteor because that'd just be epic. But then I won't be able to raise my kids. And all this great stuff I'm learning, I have to be able to impart this to my kids. And with this in mind, one morning at about 3 a.m, I just woke up and I got, oh my God, I got it. I know what I want to do. I grabbed a stack of paper, ran downstairs, and I started scribbling on the stack of paper. And the first book that I wrote started to form. 2 years later, it was published. 2 months after it was published, I won an International Literary Award for contributions to human potential, which I was really surprised about. I had no idea that it would do well, but it did. But all these years later, when I look back, I thought I wrote this to capture these lessons for my kids and to pass it on to them. But which is always going to be part of the book. But when I look back, I realize, oh my gosh, this is how I survived PTSD before diagnosis, before I had it. So how I survived was by immersing myself in constructive thought, reading all these different books of personal development and success, that you have to understand these mindset principles in order to overcome PTSD. If you don't have your mindset right, you're going to get caught in the victim trap. And that is not a good place to be. It is really, really tough to recover from there. So, in hindsight, really, it's how I survived PTSD, is that book.
So, and in my mind, I'm picturing you running downstairs, writing your book. I'm just picturing you like being the Canadian Jerry Maguire, just scribbling and writing and writing and writing and trying to get it all out. So, I love that analogy. It's
help
a great,
me help you.
Exactly. Now, by the way, I love the title because, I think once we start changing that thought process, because once I went blind, it was actually 2 years ago today, that I actually had my surgery. And my thinking was, why is this happening to me? Why? And then I'm listening to a podcast by Mr. Ed Milet, which is one of my mentors. And he said, why not you? Who the hell are you not to have problems? Why not you? And then I started switching the mindset to success. Why not me? But then I started, obviously guys like us, we kind of go deep in the rabbit hole of mindset. So of course I went back to Mr. Andrew Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, and realizing that the mind hasn't really changed much in 120 years.
One of the greatest mistakes that we make is thinking that we've evolved. We haven't. Not much. Socially, we have. We're a better society in general in some ways. In some ways, we're worse, a lot worse. And, but, it's not a case of the good old days necessarily, but we always got to be looking in the mirror and trying to reevaluate, okay, what is better? What is worse, and what constitutes better? What's my definition of better? What's my definition of worse? And am I right? Because we're all guessing. And the people that think they got it, no, this is how it is. Well, the Sith speaks in absolutes. But it's true. If you're speaking in absolutes and you figure you've got it figured out, chances are you don't. And the more sure you are of the world around you, the less accurate you're probably being.
Well, kind of like the great poet and the great actor Roddy Piper once said, once I think I have all the answers, the world changes the questions. So talk to us about your upbringing. What kind of kid were you, and why did you join the military?
Well, I was a different kid. Um, and not to throw a wet blanket on the show, but I was sexually molested from the age of 7 to 12. So when that happens to a kid, it throws off your compass of what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's acceptable, what isn't. It just throws everything for a mess. And that and some other childhood traumas of serious physical abuse um, presented as ADD isn't. The symptoms of severe trauma are very, very similar in sometimes similar to that of ADD or ADHD. So I was labeled as a slow learner. It's not the case. I was not a slow learner. I didn't, but the education system failed me because it's easier to put a label on somebody than to think and do some investigation.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, this kid's having a hard time in class. So slow learner, that's your label. Oh, great. Awesome. And so I was always the odd duck. So I know what it's like to be bullied, to be pushed around, to be told that you're nothing. None of the other kids will play with you, to eat lunch by yourself in the playground and nobody come near you except to pick on you. And which is why I learned how to fight, because I'd be all meek and mild until somebody would push me into the lockers or something, and something would snap and I'd fight. No matter, I was always a small kid, but at some point, I just didn't care anymore. So I didn't care how big you were, how mean you were, if you're the cool guy at school or who you were. I'd fight you no matter what. And that start, that's PTSD is the if I have a problem, kill it. Your brain's been rewired to constantly be dealing with threats in a violent way, which is the only way to survive in battle, in combat. But you don't need to be in a war to have your brain wired for if I have a problem, kill it kind of
Now, I
response.
have a question to ask because
Yeah.
I grew up in an abused household, and for me, my solace was books. That was
Mm.
where I ran. That was where I found my peace because I can go anywhere in the world as long as I had a book. So, what was your go-to solace?
I enjoyed books too, and there's all kinds of stories, like Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I loved that book
Yeah.
because I really related to that bird. Here's a bird that didn't fit in with anybody else, but that bird was also extraordinary. So I thought, well, maybe that's me. I don't know. And uh, that escapism, is so nice. But for me as a kid, I didn't have the love and a safe place to live. But what I did have was a motorcycle because my dad had a lot of money, and a snowmobile for the winter. So I spent all my time. I don't think I ever did an oil change on either of them, which is horrible. But uh, I always had gas. Dad always kept me in gas, and I had those two machines. So all summer long, I was on my little trail bike buzzing around, and all winter long, I'd be on that snowmobile, buzzing all over Hell's Half Acre, and all my time was spent on those machines. And I covered a lot of ground around that acreage of ours, and I know everybody's backyards and all the trails up and down those train tracks. And that's that was me growing up, most of it.
So, what did you have military in your background, or how did you decide to join the military? And talk to us because for me, I love everybody's recruiting story because everybody has a different recruiting story. So, what was your recruiting story like?
Of my generation, I'm the only guy in the entire family that served. I have one cousin that was a cop, and that's it. But for military service, I'm the only one. Um, Both my granddads, though, they both served in World War II. As a matter of fact, my mom's dad, who who was 30 years older than his wife, was like, "Atta boy,"
Wow.
but he served in the Boer War, World War One and World War Two. In the Boer War, he was like 15 or 16 years old. And then World War One, but in World War Two, he stayed in Canada. He wasn't deployed. He was still in uniform, but in support in Canada because he was too old. He would have been in his 40s. So that's a guy with a whole lot of war. But of course, as a kid, you don't get war stories from your grandparents.
Yeah.
But I still understood that they served, and I had in me that I'd like to do my bit. But really is because I was such a clown all through school. Because remember, way back when I was told that I was a slow learner. So you give a kid a label, they tend to believe it.
Yeah.
So I believed it. Well, if I'm a slow learner, why even try?
Yeah.
And I didn't try until grade 11 or 12. There's just something about one of my teachers that I thought, I don't want to disappoint this guy. So I actually tried. Oh, what do you know? Top kid in class. Huh. So that's what happens when I try. Weird. If I don't try, I'm the bottom of the class. Interesting. Okay, that's a bit of information I'll take with me. But I was working at Tim Hortons Donuts, man, wearing my skin tight purple polyester pants, flipping donuts on the night shift from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And the people that would come in for that night shift were miserable people with a life of regrets behind them. And they just, the older I get, the better I was. And I was looking at them and I was seeing my future. I'm like, if I don't pull my head out of my butt, that's going to be me when when I get older. And damn, I don't want that to be me. So I thought, well, what can I do? I decided to join the military. I thought I was going to be a medic when I joined, but I just figured it's better to go somewhere than to go nowhere. It's better to do something than to do nothing. And I
Yeah.
got to do something. And college didn't seem like an option at the time because of my high school. So off to the military I went. And through the recruiting process, I thought I heard them say that I got in as a medic and that I had a ship out date of February 11th, 1991. But I misheard them. I was competing for the position. I didn't get it. So when I went to the recruiting center for clarification, they're like, "Oh, no, you competed for it. You didn't actually get that slot." Like, oh, I've already had the going away party. So whatever you got,
So
music,
that was the old bait and switch.
infantry, infantry. I said, I'll take it. What is it? Now that I've decided to do infantry, can you tell me a little bit about what it is? And well, do you like camping? Well, yes, I do. Infantry. Okay, I can do that. And that's what I did. So I ended up, I wanted to join to patch people up, to patch up the holes, not to put holes in people. But that's way she went. And then I was deployed during the Balkan Wars as a United Nations peacekeeper in 1994. And that was something else. Not only did the media not tell the story of what was actually happening there, they would use euphemisms for everything. So it was a genocide. They called it ethnic cleansing. Like, oh, that's interesting. You're just going to make words up now. Cool. Nope, it was a genocide. But they didn't want to use a word like that because it's inflammatory and people might actually want to have a response. Like genocide, that reminds me of Hitler.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do something about that. But no. Instead, it was observe and report, and which is the worst kind of tour that you could possibly do because you're still under threat all the time. They're still getting shot at, and there's bombs and bullets and all the horrors of war. But you can do, but the rules of engagement are so brutal that you never know when you can shoot back. Not for sure, And what that does to a person, seeing misery and not being able to do what you want to be able to do about it. Not being able to help these kids and families, and they're starving to death, and there's bugger all you can do about it. That's a rough go, and that's the curse of a United Nations tour. There's no peace to keep there. You're in the middle of a war trying to keep people from killing each other. Like imagine being a bouncer in a bar fight, only you can't drag either of them out of the bar. You just got to stay in there and hold them off. Only it's you're holding off thousands of people on each side, and they're all shooting at each other, and you're in the middle going, "Hey, don't shoot!
Yeah. Hey, stop
It's
that!
stop that!
Stop that!
Stop, or I'll say stop again."
I'll
It's
get my flashlight. Hold on.
yeah, that's it. It's. I mean, there was some combat. There's the Battle of Medak Pocket that no American knows about, and only a few Canadians know about. It's a damn shame. But the Croatians wanted to wipe out yet another town of Serbs and Muslims, and there was 21 countries serving the United Nations that were over there. But Canada said, hey, no genocide today, folks. Nope. All those kids and families, no, wait, we don't want you to slaughter them today. Well, no. We want to slaughter them. We want to rub out this entire town. No. We saw the last few towns down the street that you did that to, and it doesn't look very nice. So we're going to stop you. And they said, well, guess we're going to fight then. All right. Two countries ran away. There's two other countries that ran away. They're like, whoa, this is dangerous. Yeah, you can go have your slaughter. We're gonna go have a coffee, smoking a coffee. And the Canadians are like, no, 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 no genocide today. And we dug in for the first time since the Korean War. Canadian troops dug in stage 5 trenches. We were outmanned, outgunned. And I think there was less than 100 of us that were actually there on that front line. But they dug in at the town of Medak Pocket and they fought for 4 freaking days. Now, the amount of dead at the end of this, nobody knows for sure. The only thing I'm sure of is that there's 0 dead Canadians. The couple had some wounds, but none of them died.
So if you're battling for 4 days, I mean, because like I was an infantry guy also, and you guys had to be running low on ammo. You had to be running low on food. Your morale had to be in the shitter. So, what was it just knowing that you're saving lives that kept you guys going?
Well, that wasn't me. That was a year before I got there. So
Okay.
I wasn't part of Medak Pocket.
Okay.
How the supply lines kept going, I have no idea how they did it. But Canadians being such a teeny weeny little army, we have to be pretty good. So our level of training is higher than average. You know, I don't know what the comparable would be with U.S. troops, like what unit I could compare us to, but we cross train in everything. So Americans are very, very specialized. The
Yeah.
machine gunner runs a machine gun.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, it's like, well, we can do that and everything else,
Yeah.
and drive the tank, and like we can do it all, at least a little. And we still have specialists, and there's still the higher up courses. So like we could all operate the machine gun, but we're not machine gunners. The machine gunner with the machine gun course can do it better, but everybody can do it. But the machine gunner can do it really, really well. Um, Same as mortars. We can all fire mortars, no problem. But the mortarmen were really, really good at it. So we can all drive, but the driver is better at it.
Yeah. So how
Our
many years did you do total?
only 5. Yeah,
Well,
I did.
only, I mean, heck, that I hate, when people say only, it's kind of like, I think it's amazing that you did anybody, because I think it's the numbers are like less than 1 or 2% of the population in the world actually served in some kind of military. So just for you
And a
doing
very
that.
small very small fraction of that are people that have actually been in a war.
Yeah.
And a very small fraction of that are people that were actually outside the wire.
Yeah.
It's like it's a small community of outside the wire operators.
Yeah.
It's a very, very small community.
So
And
now
now,
I've
sorry.
had over 380 episodes here. I think I'm almost at 400.
Wow.
And I've had a lot of, military, Navy SEALs, no matter, police officers, first responders. And no matter how hardcore we are, in the military, we get used to getting paid, once a month, twice a month. We're getting used to getting medical or, we get used to getting fed. But then once your career is over, you no longer have a mission. You no longer have a career. And most of the time, 99% of the time, you lose the camaraderie. Because, like my friend Nick, Sergeant Nick says, once you step off a military base, the military doesn't give a shit about you. The phone stops ringing. And now all of a sudden you're a man on an island unto yourself. What was your transitioning like?
Rough. My tour, I was injured with an OSI, operational stress injury. So people would say PTSD, and I didn't know it. I mean, I should have known it, but there was no training in it in the 90s. The war was 1994, the summer tour when I was there, and nobody knew, right? People could tell I was off. That was for sure. When I'm pinning people up against the wall by the throat, yeah, chances are I should talk to somebody. But that wasn't the case. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't think I had a problem, and nobody told me I had a problem. So my life just blew apart. All I knew after that war was I can't do this anymore, and I want to go to college. I want to live in a bigger world. So I want to learn something. That's all I knew. So I put in my release, and I was released very, very injured and a total mess. It was bad. Um, the temper, I was punching holes in walls. I punched out my own windshield. That was a neat trick. It actually, when you're punching from the inside out, it shatters fairly easily. I don't suggest it, but it's not as hard as you'd think, because they're meant to take impacts from the outside in. So from the inside out, that windshield breaks pretty easy. Um, but I didn't understand that I was injured. I didn't understand that these anger outbursts were a problem, that they weren't normal and they weren't okay. It took me a while to figure that out after I was spackling a couple of holes in the walls. Because when you have PTSD, um, if you have a problem, kill it. If you have a problem, kill it. If you have a problem, kill it. It's how your brain is wired.
Mm-hmm.
Hesitation kills is one of the things that you
Yeah.
learn in infantry. If you hesitate, you die. Or worse, if you hesitate, your friends die. So if you have a problem, you don't hesitate, you act with action. It's how your brain is wired. So putting up a dam to hold back those waters is not easy. It takes time and self-awareness and work. But inch by inch, I was able to get a grip on some of it, like putting holes in walls. I'm like, this is just stupid. What the frick am I doing? So I recognize it as just being so dumb. And I'm like, well, that's not okay. So no more of that. Okay. So good. We're making progress. I don't put holes in walls anymore. Excellent. And, but that's about as far as I was able to grow.
Now,
It was something, but it
notice,
23 years before I got diagnosed. 23 years. It was a mess.
now, like I said, I'm not a professional. Obviously, I'm only a ninth grade dropout. But I have interviewed a lot of professionals here, and I've learned that when an adult acts out, it's usually because of trauma that happened between the ages of 3 and 13.
Mhm.
Then you add war to the mix, and then sometimes, not all the time, but you add alcohol to the mix,
Oh, yeah.
and it becomes the perfect storm. And nobody tells you how to get out of the perfect storm unless there's been somebody that's been in there already. And I think that's why I think a lot of veterans need to talk to more veterans, because we'll open up to a veteran more than we will open up to a civilian, at least here in the States. Do you find the same thing that there?
Of course. And I find that there's a real link between veterans and all first responders, fire,
Yeah.
EMS, police. We all speak a very similar language, but some people are only comfortable enough to open up and talk if somebody is culturally competent. So very like a paramedic talking to another paramedic.
Yeah.
Um, but my show, Operation Tango Romeo, the trauma recovery podcast, is for veterans, first responders, and their families. And so far, it's been working out. It seems that the tone of the show, the language that we speak there, is connecting to all of the above. It's probably a little veteran heavy because, well, I was an army guy, so it's going to have that bit of a leaning, but it seems to be really connecting and inclusive to that entire community. And of course, the families. The families are often left by the wayside. Um, the families of the serving, whether it be police, first responders, whatever, they go through so much. Because when we're having a bad day, they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
If we're having an outburst, they have to deal with it, and it's no damn fun. It's a tough go to be a family member. And a lot of times they don't know what the hell is going on. And
Yeah.
they take it personally. They figure if you're angry, you must be angry at me. But that's not the case at all.
Yeah. And I just interviewed a young lady. Her name is Sharon Lecter. She was,
Oh, I know
um,
Sharon.
yep. And, she was telling me that she doesn't really tell it much, but her son was a Marine and
Mhm.
he became a member of the 22. So a lot of people don't realize, that when a soldier is in the military, their family is doing the same amount of time as they are. And, sometimes, especially with husbands and wives, they got to pick up the slack when we're overseas. And a lot of people don't really think about the family. So that's one thing I love about your show is that you actually include the families and make them feel that they're a part of the service.
It's important. Like we are in our peer support groups, we talk about the blast radius. So, as Army guys, we all understand blast radius. If you throw a grenade, it has a blast radius of 5 meters, whatever it is. So, whatever is in that 5 meter zone is going to have holes in it. If it's a mortar, that blast radius is maybe 50 meters. If it's an artillery piece, maybe that blast radius is 100 meters. But from the point of impact out, there is an area of damage that's done. Every time, and it doesn't even have to be an outburst. Just anytime you have that hard face on, you know, um, if I have an inability to smile one day because I'm just somewhere else, my wife thinks I'm mad at her, and I'm not mad at her. That is the blast radius. Who am I affecting because of my demeanor? It doesn't have to be an angry outburst at all. It could be that I am shutting off or isolating myself. Well, that's going to affect other people. There's still a blast radius, even without the blast. We all affect others, our mood, our choice of words. If we're being short, if we're, um, uh, my wife hates it that yeah, like you weren't listening to me, therefore you don't care about me. It's like, no, I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to listen. I'm just in 7 places at once. And it's just how my brain works. And part of that is trauma. The other part is that I'm a high creative, but I'm really doing my best here. So understanding that about each other and not taking it personally, because we all affect the people around us. And that's one of the reasons of one of the motivators for suicide. When people can't see when people see the blast radius, the damage that they're doing, and they don't know a way out, they tend to fall on the sword. I mean, people literally jump on a grenade to save the troops around them. And that's where a lot of the suicide comes from because they like, I have a blast radius. Well, shit, I can't stop. I don't know how to stop. Uh, I'm the bad guy. So I'll sacrifice myself so that I don't hurt anybody else. That's what's going on in the heads of a lot of people before they commit before they die by suicide. It's a act of self-sacrifice, not every time by any stretch, but is one of the reasons that people pull the pin and punch out.
Unfortunately, and I've heard it said, and I believe it that once a person takes their life, they're no longer in pain, but you just projected all your pain onto somebody else. And unfortunately, from the studies that I've read, um, suicide can become generational. If you look into somebody, if somebody has committed suicide, a lot of times it's somebody in the past in their lineage that have actually committed suicide also. So for me, I believe, once I started getting help 12 years ago, that it was up to me to go change my life from giving generational curses to generational blessings. You know what I mean?
I do.
So, and this is a perfect segue talking about kindness, because I think that if we're more kind to each other, um, I believe that we can probably, I mean, this is just my crazy talk, but I think we can save 85% of not to 90% of the people that are going to commit suicide is if somebody just showed them some kindness. Somebody just, like for me, when I tell everybody, I say, I don't, I might not have the answers, but I have a big shoulder and I got big ears. I'm always there to listen. And I think if we could just start listening to people and being kind to people, I think we could save a lot more lives.
I agree. And the biggest way to do that is to not categorize people. People don't like to think. So, in place of thinking, we just label somebody and then we put them in a pile, and then we never have to think about them again. I know everything about you because here's your label. You're a crackhead. Well, okay. Now I don't have to give a shit about you because you're a crackhead. So I'll put you in the, and you're just a worthless subhuman. I don't got to think about you. And that's what people do. And it's not okay. It's not okay at all. 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5 homeless people in the United States are military veterans.
Yep.
And I don't know what the numbers are up here because nobody wants to find them out. Because if you figure out the number, you might have to actually do something about it.
Yep.
Um, but there's certainly a lot of homeless or underhoused people that are veterans here. We have veterans food banks in Canada. Well, mostly just in Alberta, but it's growing, specific to veterans because of how much PTSD has put people in the street because they can't work. To deal with it, they've turned to drugs. And it's funny how judgy people, oh, you're a druggie, you're a meth head, you're a crackhead. Hang on, slow down, slow your roll. Why? Why? Well, poor life choices. No, no. You're being a douchebag. That is not why they're on crack. That is not why they're on meth. They are grasping for straws. And that was the only way out that they could find. Like earlier, I was talking about how people will kill themselves to fall on the sword. Well, if the only way out is to kill yourself, then people will do that. If the only way out is the only relief you can find is some cocaine, and that's the only thing that works for you, guess what you're going to do? Some cocaine. And maybe the first few times it's okay, but eventually it's going to turn into a problem
Yep.
because the trauma that you're trying to deal with isn't going away. In fact, whatever drug that you're turning to for relief, it just starts a negative feedback loop and it makes it worse and worse and worse and
And
worse
also,
and
it's in the United States. I'm very big on LinkedIn. I think we connected on LinkedIn, but they just had a post that I read today that so many Americans are dying from diabetes and obesity
Mhm.
and a lot of it's not what you're eating, but what's eating you. So it doesn't have to
That's
be
right.
alcohol. It doesn't have to be drugs. It can be food, whatever. Because people don't realize that. Like I'm clean. I just celebrated 33 years of sobriety, but the same endorphins that hit when you eat a candy bar is the same endorphins that hit when you take a hit of methamphetamine or when you take cocaine or any other drug. It's the same mindset loop like you're talking about. So
We just
how does a person
we just want to feel good, right?
yeah, so how does a
Isn't that
person
natural?
all right, let's say a guy or girl is about to get out of the military
Okay.
or going to get out of the military. Because if you're in the military, when we were in, me and you we're kind of old school, where back then, if you went to go see a shrink back in the 80s, early 90s, we all cracked on you. We all made fun of you.
Yeah.
But now I think because we know what the stigma is, um, should a person, even before they get out of the military, start going for help?
Yes. You know, so many of the TV shows, like I've enjoyed the show Shameless. So I saw the whole series. Well, one of the things Fiona says in Shameless is like, Gallagher's don't go to therapy. Like it's some sort of pride. It's like if anybody needs to go to therapy, it's the Gallaghers, every one of them, right? But it's a thing of pride. We don't go to therapy. That's not what we do. Why? Is it a weakness? Does it make you less than? Does it make you like? What's the hang up here? But really, what it is saying, I don't need help. I can help myself. Well, Gallagher's, I don't know about that. It doesn't seem to be the case. Um, but everybody needs to get a little bit of help when they're getting out because there's the challenges that you're going to face. You're going to face feeling like the odd duck, understanding like there's a Veterans Transition Network that does great work, but when you are the odd person out, you're going to feel isolated, because once you're out, you're out.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Nobody keeps in touch with you.
Okay.
All those relationships are temporarily on pause for a few years before there's the other people that are out. And then you can start to find your community again. But you are alone. You are alone when you first get out. And it sucks because your family doesn't understand you. All your friends from high school don't understand you. Nobody freaking understands you because you're a different person now.
Yeah.
And it is a awkward spot to be in. So what do? You got to find a new community. And that's one of the spots where Operation Tango Romeo fills that gap a little bit. Like, especially the first 10 episodes. You listen to the first 10 episodes and you have an idea of, oh, that's what's going on. Oh, that's what makes me different. Oh, okay. And then you have to learn how to be a bit of a chameleon, man. How to wear different hats in different places.
All
You
right. So
can't.
now I got a question, because like I've been out, I think now it's 12 years now.
Okay.
And I see guys that I was in, we all pretty much got out at the same time. You know, they're still rocking the same camo. They're still rocking, it's like, all right, bro, you're not in anymore. You've been out 12 years and it's become their identity. Well, for me, like the day that, my life changed was a Memorial Day 2012, was when they said, you're no longer Sergeant Kaufman. You can't see, you can't shoot, so we don't need you. And I didn't know who Richard was, because I spent my whole life being Sergeant Kaufman. And then I was scared, and I had to learn how to reimagine and reinvent myself. And I think a lot of people that were in the military, they get stuck not reinventing themselves. They're still stuck in that service when there's this whole beautiful world out here, but you're still stuck to being Sergeant Kaufman. You know what I mean?
So what's your question?
So then if a person, how does a person, like when we got out because we got hurt. So how does a person start to rebuild their life and reimagine their life after service?
I'm writing a third book right now, and it breaks down into 3 steps. The first step is understanding who you truly are. Sergeant Kaufman is a role that you played. It's not who you are.
Yeah.
The people that hang on to still rocking the camo 10 years later and all that, those are people that are hanging on to who they were, because who they were is cooler in their mind than who they are today. Once a veteran, always a veteran. So hanging on to that veteran identity, when you hang on to it too tightly and everything around you is got a veteran slant to it, well, you're hanging on to your past as opposed to right now and building on that. And it becomes your identity. Your ego is the false identity. The ego is the story that you tell yourself. Your ego is the roles that you play, but it's not who you are. It plays at who you are, but it isn't who you actually are. Who you are is how you live your life, not the role with which. So you're a sergeant, but were you a good one? Were you a compassionate leader? Were you a good listener? It's all those things is who you are. Am I organized? Am I reliable? Am I honest? Those are the things that you are, not the role. How you played that role is who you are, not the role itself, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense, especially because when I get out, I had to, I mean, literally, I'm blind in one eye. I can't do what I used to do. And now I'm sitting around, getting fat, dumb, and happy. And I'm like, all right, this shit isn't working. I got to figure out a new way, a new normal. And that's when I, had lunch with Gary Vee and all that good stuff, and then had a podcast and all that stuff started. So talk to us about, you know, how you started and how and why you started the podcast, and what are some of the things you wish you would have known before starting your show? Because a lot of people, they
Yeah.
they want, hey, I want to start a podcast, until like, wait a minute, this is work. You have to put effort into it, and they don't realize that the average podcast lasts 8 to 13 episodes, and then it's over.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And I'm at 185, 186, something like that.
so you're in the top. You're in the top 5% in the world.
There you go. So those are two very different questions. Let's start with why I started Operation Tango Romeo.
Okay.
I already had the Meincke Show podcast, and I did about 65 episodes of that, and it was cool. Like yourself, I was starting to get some neat guests on, and even a couple of celebrities. It was pretty cool, and I enjoyed it. But what it was missing was a real strong sense of purpose. I'm not really able to do things just because they're fun. I need more than just fun. I need purpose.
Yeah.
So with Operation Tango Romeo, I was already part of a peer support group, and there's members of that group that were saying, "Hey, how do we preserve these lessons?" And I mean, people were driving 2 and 3 hours just to be a part of this peer support group once every 2 weeks for 2 hours. It was like, clearly there's some value, because people would show up every 2 weeks for a year despite the 2-hour drive just to be there. I'm like, all right, well, let's do Operation Tango Romeo, which is originally the idea was scaled peer support. So peer support that is available anywhere in the world. You don't have to drive 2 hours. You can, while you're driving to work, just turn it on, listen to Spotify, away you go. And it was the peer support podcast when I first started. So I figured, maybe 20, 30 episodes, 40 on the outside. And then I'll talk about, I'll have everything covered. There'll be nothing left to talk about. Well, I was wrong, horribly wrong. There are so many resources out there. And I kept saying to other people that were service providers, hey, do you have a resources page on your website? Because like nobody knows where to go. And people would kind of have a little one, with like 3 or 4 resources, but there's hundreds of them out there, and it's all fractions. There's all these little mom and pop shops. And I keep asking people, hey, do you have a resources tab? Well, I just gave up, waiting for somebody else to do it. And the show became that resources tab. So lots of American guests have been on, Navy SEALs and Green Berets and all that cool stuff. But most everybody that has been on is the founder of this or the facilitator of that. They got something going on that's supporting the veteran first responder community. They are the resource, the founder of that resource. So I have them on, and we talk about what those resources are and how to find them. That way, now you have a one-stop shop. You go to the show, you cherry pick. Here's this foundation. It's in Utah. Great. I'll click on that. I want to learn what they're doing. Hey, what are they doing in Texas? And pick the resource that works for you, and away you go. But any of the episodes work as peer support, because you hear we all speak the same language. It doesn't matter if you're a Marine or regular infantry, or Canadian, American, British, Australian, any of it, Russian for that matter. If you've served either military or first responder, there is a there's a commonality amongst us. We've all seen the devil. Any of us that have, especially if you've been deployed, you've seen the devil. You've seen the devil's works. And whether that is literal for you or figurative, it doesn't matter. We know evil. And that is the common bond with all of us. And once you've seen that, and you've seen true evil, that's what makes us, one of the things that makes us all different, I think. So that's the voice that you hear, and other guests that get it.
Yeah.
And like yourself, also have all kinds of practitioners and trauma experts, and I cover everything that I think is relevant, from Dr. Bonnie Kaplan with her book, The Better Brain, talking about micronutrients and nutrition and how that helps mental health issues. Whatever I can find that is relevant, the mission and the vision are the same. And I stay true to the mission and the vision. The mission is save lives and relieve pain by making help for PTS injuries easily accessible. The vision is a world where the path to recovery is clear, because it ain't clear right now. It's a dog's breakfast. It's a mess. And I'm doing everything I can to clear that up. And when my third book comes out, it's going to be all about that. Here's what I found. Here's what it boils down to. Here's what I think helps. And that's going to be the next book.
Yeah, we got a book I'm starting to write. Actually, it's coming up this Wednesday. It's going to be the next book. It's called Too Dumb to Quit, a story of resilience, and it's going to have a lot of the people that have been on the show, talking about resilience. Because anybody, it doesn't matter whether you're the banker or the garbage man, we all have trauma. We all have something going on in our lives. We all have resiliency. I mean, you see these actors, actresses, committing suicide at rampant rates, so we all have trauma, I think. But now I think we're actually starting to be able to talk about it a little bit more. We don't have that stigma. I mean, we still do, but we don't have it as much. So what have you really learned, besides, what you do, but talking to some of these people that have been in the trenches? What are some of the things that they've done to start refilling their cup again?
Finding a sense of purpose is the biggest one. And that's why so many people, why there's so many little, I shouldn't say little in a diminutive way. That's not how I mean it. But there's a lot of mom and pop shops for veteran support out there. And for the most part, these are family members or veterans themselves, or former first responders or current first responders that see a problem, that want to help. So they have retreats or courses, or they're doing something to give back, and they're doing it for themselves, like I do. My show is cathartic for me.
Yeah.
It provides me with a sense of purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and that sense of purpose lets me know that I'm not wasting my life. That sense that you're not wasting your time here on this planet is why so many of these places pop up. And that's what everybody needs to find. And, you don't have to have your own organization, and it doesn't have to be your job. One day a month, volunteer at a food bank or at a homeless shelter or wherever, whatever is interesting to you, but give back. Continue your service to your community through volunteerism. One day a month will change your life.
Yeah.
Because you'll have that sense of purpose and contribution. And when you keep that promise to yourself to help others, something happens to your confidence levels. It goes up. Your self-esteem goes up, because you know that you're not a waste of skin on this planet. You're helping somebody. Just help somebody. Whatever that is. Buy a McDonald's meal and give it to a homeless person once a month. There you go, $12 once a month. That's all you got to do. $12 a month, and give one meal a month to some homeless person. Whatever it is that is meaningful for you, do that. I've had guests. He's into beekeeping and mindfulness, and so he started beekeeping for veterans. His name is Mattis Stebbin out of in Ontario. Okay, that's your jam. Cool. Whatever it is for you, do that.
Yeah.
Just do something.
And I love that. My father, he's 90 years old. He came over the boat from Italy, so he has a lot of these great euphemisms. He's like, the man with no feet can't complain to the man with no shoes. So sometimes if you're feeling down about yourself, like you said, go out. If you I think the universe gives back. So I believe that if you're running low on money, like Tony Robbins said, he gave his last $28 to a child and it totally changed his life. So I think a lot of times if you're running low on something, whatever it is, go help somebody else that's struggling with that same issue. And I think the universe, whatever you call it, I call it God, will give back to you tenfold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but believe it or not, there's even a limit to kindness, which seems a bit counterintuitive, but there is. I've seen people fall into the hero trap,
Yeah.
where it's like, "Hey, that felt good," and it turns into an addiction, just like anything else.
Yeah.
And then they think, "Well, I must be good because the hand that gives is above that hand that receives." And look at me doing all this giving, so I must be sorted out. I guess my own stuff is figured out now. Nope.
Yeah.
No, just another coping mechanism.
Yep.
It's just another addiction. So yes, help others, absolutely, but never lose sight of what's going on with yourself, and make sure that you're not doing it as a coping mechanism and ignoring the shit that you've got to deal with yourself.
I love it. So last two questions. This has been a great conversation, by the way. I'm so grateful for you. I'm thankful for your friendship, and I just wanted to publicly say that you're an amazing individual. So, how do we find you? How do we support your mission?
First of all of that is super kind. Thank you, Richard. You're a good man. Um, the easiest way, and I'll put this in the comments too. The website is operationtraumarecovery.org. So Operation traumarecovery.org. I think I didn't spell it wrong. And everything's on there for contact information. My show is on, well, about 8 of the major platforms, like most of them are. My primary upload point is anchor.fm, but the bigger platform is Spotify.
Yeah, I use Anchor. So
yeah, Anchor's good. And it's good for me anyway. It's simple.
yeah.
So I like simple. But it's on Spotify within 10 minutes of me loading it on Anchor. So if you have Spotify, it's a free app. Just click follow on there, and every time a new one pops up, it's right there. And you can message me through there as well. All the lives are collected. So if you want to see the video of it, the only place to do that is on one of my Facebook pages, either my personal page, which is already at 5,000. So sorry if you send me a friend request, it's booked,
Yeah.
it's full. But you go to Operation Tango Romeo, the Trauma Recovery Podcast Facebook page, and that's where the collection of all the videos are. So if you're a video person, that's what you want to see. That's where they all are. I've been flailing at YouTube, so I don't really have much of a YouTube channel. I did for the Meincke Show podcast, but it's just I'm overwhelmed. So the videos are there on Facebook. If you want video, that's where it is.
So then, how do we find your books?
Amazon.ca or Amazon.com or Amazon.co, wherever you are in the world. Go to Amazon, and I got it in the notes there. I typed the name of the book is Why Not Me? The Keys to Unlock Your Power and Release Your Potential. The the other book that I have published has nothing to do with personal development. It's for real estate. I actually got one right here, but it's I was a realtor for about 12 years, and so anybody that owns a home, if you want to make money with your home, invest. There's the Home Seller's Bible for homeowners, agents, and investors. It's on there too. But the one that we're talking about today, though, is Why Not Me? The Keys to Unlock Your Power and Release Your Potential. And it's really how I survived PTSD until I finally got diagnosed 23 years later.
Okay, so my last question, I ask 1,000 people, I get 1,000 different answers.
Okay.
I don't know how it is in Canada, but right now I live in New Jersey, and with this Omicron, Deltacron, Omicron, whatever it is, we're going back on. It seems like we're going back on lockdown again. And in the United States, since this whole thing started 2 years ago, over 100,000 restaurants have closed. So we have a lot of parents that are out of work. They're driving DoorDash, Uber Eats, all that stuff, just trying to put food on the table. So if I ask the average, person that's listening to this to do something in 7 days, they're never going to get to it. because they're so busy, just trying to stay ahead. But if somebody's listening to us right now, and if somebody is struggling with their mental health, what is something they can do in the next 24 hours to start to get some help so they don't eat their gun?
The number one thing to do is to control your environment. So if you're on, people like to complain about social media, but you're in control of the filters. So any of the haters out there, click unfollow. You don't have to unfriend them, you know, um, unless you have to. I mean, if you have to, you have to, but try to not unfriend and block unless you have to. But if you have to, that's okay. But you can't allow any toxicity in your life. So start with your social media feed. When there's stuff that's just negative and hateful, unfollow. If you have to, unfriend and block, but at least unfollow. And then you won't see that crap anymore because it only takes a couple of rotten apples to spoil the bunch. And you'll be surprised. It doesn't take long to clean up your Facebook feed or any of those feeds. Just unfollow and replace with something positive, with something inspirational, with something that you can dream about. For me, it's cabins in the woods and stuff like that. Because I used to have one. It was stolen from me. It is one of the worst losses of my life. So instead of focusing on what I lost, I'm focusing on the next one. And I got that coming up in my feed all the time. Like, ooh, yeah, that'll be good. That's what I'll build. That's what I'm going to do next. And focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. So control your environment. If there's members of your family or friends that are toxic, it's gonna have to small dose them. Maybe even ignore them, but do it with kindness. You know, but if people are negative and mean and hateful, just don't tune into that anymore. Stop.
And one thing I noticed for my own mental health is I stopped watching the news unless
Yeah.
it's for weather or little local events. But I stopped watching CNN, all these other networks, because I just got tired of all the negativity. And then I did exactly what you just said. After I went blind 2 years ago, somebody said it, and I don't remember who it was. They said, that even Mr. Carnegie and Napoleon Hill says, when you start using the reticular activating system in your mind, you're going to see whatever you're going to look for. So I went through all my Facebook for 30 days. I hearted every positive thing, and I let everything negative thing go. And now
Yeah.
my feed is nothing but positiveness. So I love what you're talking about because it actually works.
It's what you have to do. I mean, you have to take control of the information that you consume. Garbage in, garbage out. Don't let. If there was an elevator that you had to get on every day, and elevator number one always smelt good and it was nice, but elevator number two, there's always the same guy at the same time farting in the elevator. You're going to choose elevator number one. Well, why smell of somebody else's farts in the elevator? Clean up your Facebook feed, clean up all your social media feeds.
Yeah.
You don't have to smell the farts in the elevator. Take the other elevator. You don't have to take control of that. Look after yourself. Have some self-respect. You don't have to sniff the other guy's farts. And and that's what it is.
I love it. So I just want to say thank you for hopping on. This has been great. Guys, I've definitely.
What a thing to end it on. Don't
Yeah.
sniff the other guy's farts and the show's over.
I'm actually I might even name the show that when it goes out live. But guys, definitely check out his podcast. I've been binge listening to it. Check out his book. I read it 3 times. You will not be disappointed whatsoever. Guys, if you get a chance, make sure you pick up the book, A Hero's Journey from Darkness to Light. It's out now, available. I put in the links for $10.97. If you don't have $11, then you got more problems than buying the book. Also, thank you, Operation Veteran Freedom. If you guys are looking to start your own business, especially digital businesses, check them out. It's a free Facebook page. group, and they're willing to help you out. Brother, I just want to say thank you. And this was such an amazing conversation. We're like, yeah, we're only going to go for 30 minutes. And now here we're over an hour. I'm just enjoying the conversation. I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Richard. It's very generous, and congratulations on all the success of your show. It's not easy to get Sharon Lecter on the show or to have lunch with Gary V. You're name dropping like a Mad Hatter there. Awesome.
Well, it is
Those
because
are some big names.
I realized that, I couldn't do what I do if it wasn't for the people that got me where I'm going. So for me, I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants. So I always want to give credit where credit is due.
You're a good man.
All right, my brother. Well, have an amazing week. And guys, remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is but up. I will catch you guys on the flip.